Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take your source material, your strategic research, specialized articles, all that proprietary intelligence, and we turn it into actionable clarity.
Right. Our goal is always to give you the knowledge you need, and fast, but with a kind of perspective that lets you move strategically.
And today we're focusing on a topic that is just, constantly drowned out by either hype or, frankly, fear.
We're doing what the sources call a sober geological survey of the global economy. We're treating the rise of AI not as some gradual tech upgrade, but as a seismic event, an earthquake.
An earthquake that's restructuring the entire landscape of value creation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Irrevocably.
So our deep dive today is going to be uncompromisingly strategic. We're mapping the economic damage that's happening right now. We want to know where the tectonic plates have already fractured.
Where have the value chains actually snapped? Where has the cost of production just collapsed?
And just as important, where are they under so much pressure that a rupture is, imminent? We're talking the next 2 to 3 years.
Our mission is simple. Cold, hard, evidence-based facts. What changes are already permanent? What sectors are looking at a total upheaval in the next 24 to 36 months?
And who really gets it? Globally, I mean. Which nations, which strategic thinkers actually understand the power shifts that are happening?
Okay, so let's start with the initial quake, section 1.
The initial quake. Value chains already shaken. These are the places where the ground has already moved. You can see the wreckage.
And it's important to anchor this in data. The source is pretty clear here. We're seeing reports of efficiency gains from 30% to as high as 65% in certain use cases.
65%? That's not just optimization.
No, it's a complete redefinition of the economic threshold. It changes what's profitable, who can even enter the market. The main takeaway from these first tremors is that AI just cuts the middle out of old value chains.
Let's start with the canary in the coal mine. Software and tech services. The sources lay out that old chain, the one that defined coding for decades.
Right. Requirements, then design, then code, test, maintenance. It was like an industrial factory floor.
And now?
That chain hasn't just been shortened. In a lot of cases, the middle links have been vaporized. Generative AI tools mean writing code, running basic tests. It's almost instantaneous now.
The labor of just translating human ideas into computer syntax has been commoditized almost overnight.
It has. So if the value is no longer in who writes the code,
where does the human technologist fit in? What's their strategic role now?
It's been pushed completely upstream and downstream. It's all about context and judgment now.
Okay, so upstream.
Upstream. The value is in defining the correct problem. Anyone can get an AI to generate code that solves a problem, but who can identify the strategic problem that should be solved? That's the real value.
And downstream?
Downstream, it's deciding what not to build. AI floods you with possibilities, a million solutions. The real skill is in the solutions engineer who has the strategic restraint, the commercial sense, to say no to 99% of them.
That's a huge shift. From valuing high-speed execution to valuing strategic clarity. The sources are explicit, they say, the mechanical programmer. Their value has just plummeted.
Precisely. Think about a big bank. A programmer can use AI to generate code to process a trade instantly. But if that code misses one tiny regulatory nuance for, say, the German market,
the whole system could fail, cost millions.
Exactly. The solutions engineer earns their salary by designing the architecture that makes that failure impossible from the start. Their knowledge isn't about writing the code, it's about how the entire system must behave under stress.
This has to change how universities teach right now.
It absolutely has to. If you're teaching coding as just, the craft of syntax, you are training people for redundancy.
Okay, let's move to the next area where the middle's been hollowed out. Marketing and advertising. The sources say AI has consumed 60 to 70% of the mid-chain steps here.
This is probably the most visible disruption outside of pure tech. The old ad agency model was so labor-intensive.
Market research, creative briefs, endless rounds of copy.
Design variations, managing these complex A/B tests. AI has automated all of that intermediate production, the sheer volume of it.
Which means the output itself, all those creative assets, is now a commodity.
It is. One good person with a good model can produce what used to take a whole team weeks. So the value shifts dramatically.
Where to?
2 places. First, formulating the message. Understand human psychology. Not just what looks good, but why someone clicks, why they buy.
And the second area.
The final strategic layer. Reading the data and making the call. The AI gives you 50 great options, runs 1 million tests in a simulation. The human's job is to apply judgment, ethics, Brand consistency and choose one.
And take accountability for that choice.
And take accountability. You're not a content producer anymore. You're an interpreter of human behavior and a strategic decision maker. Volume is cheap. Insight is the entire business model now.
That pattern from volume to insight, we're seeing it everywhere. Next up, translation and content. The sources have a pretty stark assessment here.
They're blunt. For most of the industry, general translation is economically finished.
We need to be specific about what that means.
Right. It's not that the AI is linguistically perfect, it still makes mistakes. But it's so fast, so cheap, basically zero cost, that for any non-specialized content,
A business memo, a product manual.
a simple news report, no human can compete on price or speed. The economic foundation for that work has just collapsed.
So where does a human translator find any sustainable value?
In the high-stakes fields where an error could be catastrophic, law, medicine, complex engineering contracts, precision there is non-negotiable.
But then there's another niche, a more interesting one.
The most resilient one is what the sources call cultural editing or transcreation. This person isn't translating sentences. They're transferring meaning, intent, context, tone.
Can you give an example of that, the difference?
Sure. A big global marketing campaign. An AI translates the slogan into Japanese, perfectly literally. But a cultural editor knows that the literal translation is, I don't know, deeply disrespectful or has some weird slang meaning.
And the whole campaign is dead in the water.
Exactly. The editor's job is to preserve the cultural intent. That's a level of context that the models still really struggle with. So if your job is mechanical conversion, you're done. If it's cultural mediation, you're essential.
The human becomes a strategic safeguard, not a production unit. Okay, last one in this section of already hit industries. Support services. Customer and IT support.
This felt inevitable, didn't it? Level 1 and Level 2 support are, for the most part, solve problems for AI.
Repetitive answers, basic diagnosis.
Have you tried turning it off and on again? All of that is optimized out. For a large company, the economic incentive to automate that first layer of triage is just too powerful. It's a cold financial calculation.
So where does the human become absolutely necessary?
At the edges of the bell curve. On one end, you need humans for the genuinely complex, novel cases, the problems the AI has never seen before.
Then on the other end,
The emotional labor. When a system fails and the customer is already angry, you need a person. The ability to de-escalate, to empathize, to absorb that human anger is incredibly valuable.
the agent's role changes from reading a script to being a conflict resolution specialist.
And a strategic exception maker. Someone who can make a non-standard decision and take accountability for it. You can't automate that yet.
All right, that's a clear map of the initial damage. Now we move into section 2, the pressure builds. These are the radical shifts coming in the next 24 to 36 months.
And the timeline here is critical. This isn't theoretical. We're talking about sectors where the entire business model, their whole purpose, is being questioned.
Let's start with a huge one, a societal pillar that seems totally unprepared. Education. The sources suggest the very concept of the school is threatened.
The traditional model was built on scarcity of knowledge. The library was a fortress, scarcity of expert teachers.
And today, knowledge is free and abundant. AI tutors are everywhere.
Which makes the old model of knowledge transmission, the lecture, basically obsolete. If a school's job is just to transmit facts, it has zero competitive advantage anymore.
So if it's not for transmitting knowledge, what's its purpose? How does it survive?
It has to pivot. 3 directions. First, it has to move from transmitting knowledge to training critical thinking.
Helping students navigate the flood of information.
Yes. Teaching them how to analyze, verify, synthesize. If a student can't tell the difference between a fact and an AI hallucination, their education has failed.
The structure of learning has to change too.
Absolutely. The second shift is from a unified curriculum to personalized pathways. AI can tailor learning to every single student's pace, style, strengths. A single teacher in a classroom of 30 could never do that.
So standardized tests become meaningless.
They lose all meaning. And that leads to the third shift, the teacher's role. It moves from lecturer to coach and mentor.
The human element, motivation, guidance, ethical reasoning.
Exactly. And the sources are really stark here. They say schools that fail to make this pivot will become, and I'm quoting, child warehouses. They'll just lose all relevance.
That is a massive pressure. Okay, next up, medicine, with a focus on non-surgical areas, diagnosis specifically.
This is a complete paradigm flip. The sources are citing studies showing AI achieving 94 to 99.5% accuracy in detecting things like cancer from scans.
Often better than human experts.
Often better, yes. This is already happening in advanced medical centers. Initial diagnosis, reading complex scans. It's being completely overhauled.
But what about that last 0.5%, the liability for that error? That still falls on the human, doesn't it?
This is precisely the value shift. The memory doctor, the one whose value was just recalling facts, is gone. The AI does that better.
So the doctor who thrives is.
The interpreter and decision maker, the one who takes the AI's 99.5% accurate diagnosis and combines it with the patient's context, their history, their family, the ethical questions. The human is the strategic partner and the empathetic connection.
How does that change a hospital's operations?
Dramatically. Clinics will shrink their administrative layers. Decision-making gets much faster. What took days now takes minutes. And human error in that initial analysis drops. It makes the system both faster and safer.
Moving on to law and governance. We saw the end of the mechanical programmer. Are we now seeing the end of the mechanical lawyer?
In terms of the economic value of those routine tasks, yes, absolutely. The work that defined the first few years of a legal career.
Drafting standard contracts, sifting through documents for discovery.
Writing basic memos. It's all obsolete in its human-intensive form. AI does it cheaper, faster, and more consistently than a junior associate billing hundreds an hour.
If that impacts entire graduating classes of law schools right now.
It does. The value has to move. It concentrates in 3 areas that can't be replicated. First, negotiation and persuasive argument. That's pure human psychology.
Second.
Strategy building. Designing a complex legal case, anticipating your opponent's moves.
And the third area is where things get messy.
The ethically and politically gray issues, where the law is unclear or contradictory. That requires human judgment and accountability. You can't outsource that. The conclusion is simple. The writing lawyer loses. The thinking lawyer wins.
Our last pressure point is media and journalism, an industry that's already stressed, but AI seems to be applying the final pressure.
This is the death of the scoop. The raw facts, who, what, when, where, are instantly replicable by AI.
So any outlet whose business model is just being the first to report the basic facts.
They're going to be crushed financially. That commodity is now free and everywhere, instantly.
So how does professional journalism survive the next 3 years?
By flight to quality and depth, only deep analysis, profound investigation, and high-quality, well-researched opinion will be economically viable. The market will stop rewarding speed and start rewarding depth.
So platforms dedicated to interpretation, explaining why it matters.
Exactly. If you're not interpreting, you're irrelevant. Which brings us perfectly to the human side of all this.
Section 3, the workforce aftershock jobs lost and gained. Let's start with the underlying principle here.
This is maybe the most important takeaway for anyone listening. The harsh summary is this. AI doesn't kill jobs. It kills jobs where the value is in repetition, not judgment.
Let's break that down. Repetition versus judgment.
Repetition is any task you can codify, optimize, and verify with external metrics. Judgment involves context, ambiguity, ethics, human connection. If a computer can easily check if your work is correct, your job is in danger.
But if a human has to verify the strategic choice or the ethical implication,
your job becomes exponentially more valuable.
So let's list the marginalized roles, the jobs that will face what the sources call an unlivable wage.
Right, this is where it gets personal. The list includes the general content writer doing SEO work, the non-specialized translator, the simple task programmer, data entry operators, level 1 support, and the descriptive report analyst.
The person who just summarizes what happened in the data.
Without offering any strategic insight, yes. And the corroborating data shows this is hitting industrial jobs too. CNC programmers, phone operators, basic web developers using templates.
And the projection is huge, 11.7% of the global workforce affected by 2026.
The velocity is staggering. This is not a theoretical discussion anymore.
But with disruption comes new roles. So what are the jobs that will emerge and thrive?
These are entirely new interfaces between the AI's power and the market's complexity. They are all about governance and strategy, not execution.
Let's start with the architects. AI system designers.
These people aren't coders. They are architects of decisions. They design the system, frame the problem, set the goals, and most importantly, build in the guardrails to prevent disaster.
Then we have context engineers. That sounds like a mix of tech and corporate culture.
That's exactly what it is. They're the ones who teach the generic AI what's important to this specific company. They feed it the nuance, the internal risk assessments, the unwritten rules. They make the tool strategically aligned.
And since AI is touching everything, you need people to manage that across the business.
The AI business integrators. They translate AI's capabilities into concrete ROI in finance, HR, logistics. This is more about organizational fluency than coding.
And of course, the ethics roles.
AI ethics and compliance reviewers. This becomes a massive field, ensuring fairness, eliminating bias, maintaining accountability as AI makes high-stakes decisions.
And finally, back to education, the thinking coach educators.
The essential human counterpart. They replace the subject matter instructors and teach the meta skills: critical thinking, resilience, curiosity. The theme is clear. Value is moving from execution to governance and strategic choice.
Okay, so that brings us to the final section, strategic foresight. Why are these predictions delivered with such high confidence? A lot of people feel like this is all still very new.
This is a crucial point. The confidence isn't based on hype. It's based on a measurable, predictable progression. We're not waiting for some rare scientific breakthrough like we are with, say, fusion power.
So what's driving this predictable progress?
3 known, plannable engines. More data, higher compute power, and better engineering. We understand the improvement curve. We know if we feed the models more, they get better. It's an engineering problem, not a scientific mystery.
And the sources point out something really interesting. The economic value is appearing before the tech is even mature.
This is the critical signal. Usually, a technology has to be nearly perfect to disrupt markets, but AI is generating huge value while it's still incomplete, while it still hallucinates and makes mistakes.
Which is a huge danger sign for anyone standing still.
It's the ultimate danger sign. If the buggy, error-prone beta version can do this, what will the 80% complete version do? It won't just disrupt, it will reshape global power.
And we see the confirmation in how major companies are acting.
Exactly. Look at the balance sheets of Microsoft, Google, the big banks. They're not making small bets. They're restructuring their entire operational models. Billions of dollars. They've done the math.
And they've decided the risk of not preparing is far greater than the risk of overreacting.
It's a high-confidence forecast. So if they're so confident, who are the people who really understand what's coming?
It's not the average user.
Not at all. The sources point to 3 groups. First, the deep infrastructure and model architects, the people building the foundations.
They see the breaking points coming 6, 12, 24 months out.
And their perspective is often one of anxiety, not excitement. They get the stakes.
Second group, strategic decision makers on boards, especially in non-tech companies.
They don't care about the tech specs. They see AI as a force, like gravity, that's redistributing power and competitive advantage. Their job is to reposition the whole enterprise for survival.
And the third group, the most powerful signal, sovereign agencies, defense, intelligence, regulation.
When nations start trying to regulate a technology before it's even mature, it's a huge tell. It's an admission that this thing is going to change the balance of global power. Regulation is a strategic defense mechanism.
Which brings us to global planning. How are the major powers responding differently?
We see 4 distinct approaches. The United States is focused on dominance.
Controlling the chips, the energy, the education, the whole stack.
It's about maintaining a comprehensive lead. China, on the other hand, sees AI as a strategic weapon of the state.
Less about open commercialization, more about integration with government, surveillance, and manufacturing.
A very different philosophy. Then you have the European Union, focused on regulation and containment.
It's a smart defensive move. They might not build the models, but they're going to set the rules for their market.
It's a strategy of control, not creation. And finally, the Gulf states. They're moving fast, leveraging their national data.
But the sources say their success depends on one thing.
On moving from just purchasing AI to local capacity building. If they just buy it, they'll be strategic vassals. If they learn to build it, they become major players.
This has been, well, a deeply insightful and frankly unsettling look at this AI earthquake.
And if we pull back for the final thought, the ultimate insight, it's that AI is not the final event. It's the accelerant.
The mind that speeds up and integrates everything else that's happening.
All these other powerful forces, quantum computing, synthetic biology, advanced robotics, and critically cheap renewable energy to power it all. AI is the orchestrator that makes them all happen faster and all at once.
So for you, the listener, what does this all mean?
It means we are witnessing the end of business and education models designed for a slower world. They just can't stand this acceleration. And the real danger, as the sources conclude, isn't being wrong about how big this change is.
It's being right, but being too late.
Repositioning now, understanding your value is in judgment, context, and strategic choice, not repetition, is essential. You have to find your new high ground before the old ground gives way.
Thank you for sharing your sources with us. This deep dive has provided some really high-stakes clarity on where value is being created and where it's being destroyed.
We hope this helps you chart your course.
Until next time, keep digging deeper.